Story 1. I think what makes someone a loser is engaging in bad or toxic behavior intentionally, such as putting people down or valuing superficial things over genuine connection. Story 2. No accountability. Everyone makes mistakes, but a winner is accountable, self-reflects, and tries to do better next time. Story 3. A man becomes a loser when he stops trying to grow, respects no one, and refuses to take responsibility for his actions. Story 4. This comment section is honestly helping my self-esteem because apparently being overweight and not conventionally attractive is okay if I am not rude to people and am willing to admit when I am wrong. In a roundabout way, thank you Reddit. I needed this today. Also, the bar is much lower than I thought. Story 5. Failure to take responsibility for his actions. A man who does not admit to mistakes and grow from them is not deserving of the title of a good man. Story 6. Being a nuisance streamer like Johnny Somali or Jack Doherty. Being a gang member, rapist, or domestic abuser. Looking up to Andrew Tate. Story 7. Not understanding boundaries or consent. Believing most people are beneath him. Blaming others for lack of success and not taking accountability for personal actions. Story 8. When someone is an abuser in any way, shape, or form, they are a loser and the lowest life form. This applies to abusers of all genders. Story 9. There are many examples to choose from. Personally, I cannot respect a man who abandons his family and does not provide for his children. That is a total loser. Story 10. I know everyone is going to give feel-good answers like, you are only a loser if you give up, or you are only a loser if you do not take responsibility, or you are only a loser if you are a jerk. But I think loser means something distinct from jerk, irresponsible person, or quitter. Can overlap with those things, but it still means something different. I think in the way we actually use the word loser, it tends to mean somebody who loses, someone who does not get the things they want or that most people want. Somebody who comes in last in the game of life. For example, an aspiring rapper with no job and poor songs can be a loser, even if he never gives up and never quits. In fact, not quitting could make him a loser if he is not recognizing the reality of his situation or how unrealistic his dream is. If he is not capable of improving or deciding to pursue something else, and every chance he gets, he is promoting his work but still behaves unprofessionally at age 42, he could be a loser. He might even be a nice person but still a loser. What about somebody who is going nowhere in life? Going somewhere in life does not have to mean achieving socially prescribed goals like marriage, children, and a house with a picket fence. You can reject those things and not be a loser. But some people are not making progress on their own chosen alternative goals. Some people do not even have goals, just floating around aimlessly like background scenery, their lives static. Those people can be losers. What if you do not have hobbies other than consuming media, your romantic interest is never reciprocated, you do not get good grades, you do not work a job that fulfills you, and you are not getting fulfillment from other activities? If you get picked last for everything, you might be a loser. I think we do not like openly admitting that, in practice, this is how the word is used. Because it sounds harsh and judgmental. It conflicts with the phrase, everyone who is trying is a winner. So, when asked to give a definition, we give one at odds with how we actually use the term and say something politically correct like a loser is somebody who is inconsiderate, when that is not necessary for being one. Story 11. Telling other men that they are not real men for really dumb reasons. I think they are trying to convince themselves that they are, in fact, manly more than anything. Story 12. There is an idea that to be a man, you must avoid empathy. Being kind or understanding is seen as weak or feminine, which is harmful. Story 13. Judging others for their weaknesses instead of lifting them up. As a musician, I see it every day, unfortunately. Story 14. Abandons his children, political extremist, acts like a man-child despite being 40, admits to spending all holidays alone despite having family, drives a big lifted truck to feel cool, brags about being rich even though he is not, constantly trash talks everyone he has ever known and always has a bad thing to say about everybody and everything. Story 15. A man who is not honest or truthful and is not sincere or genuine but is actually a liar with no accountability or moral compass. Story 16. Everyone is a loser. You live with your parents? Loser. You love your wife so much? Loser. No promotion? Loser. Promotion? Loser. You're fit? Loser. Unfit? Still a loser. Someone will hate you for something they are not good at. What matters is, do you see yourself as a loser? If the answer is yes, you already know what makes a person a loser. Story 17. I think what hurts a person the most is fear. Fear is what turns people into failures. Fear of taking responsibility, fear of change, fear of growth. At the root of it all, it is always the same thing. Story 18. The clue is in the word loser. It is not about morality. It is about competence. It is somebody who just loses at everything. Any game, sport, or activity they try to do, they lose. Anything competitive, like in business. If they are a lawyer, they lose cases. If they are a salesperson, they cannot close any deals. You get the idea. Story 19. If a person is disrespectful towards others and wrongfully uses people for personal gain, then they are a loser. Story 20. Anger issues are not just about getting mad, but about spiraling out of control over the smallest problems. I have seen men lose their temper over something as easily fixed as a crooked painting on the wall. Once you reach a point where the adrenaline does not affect you as it did before, it becomes a spectacle of deep sadness. Story 21. Poor treatment of weaker individuals. Obsession with money and possessions. Attempting to assert masculinity in any way. Driving a massive truck for no reason. These are all signs someone is a loser. A man does not care how he is perceived, only stands up to challenges, and does not waste time trying to assert dominance. The qualities that make a man occur naturally. If you are a man, you do not have to try. Story 22. Bragging about everything. His body count, size of his manhood, how much he can bench press, how expensive his car is, and his income. Those men have an "I am better than you" attitude. In my opinion, those men are losers. Story 23. They continually go against their own principles. They loudly express the moment it becomes convenient. Like literally the entirety of the Republican Party right this very second. Story 24. Society labels others negatively if you do not meet their standards and expectations, which change depending on who you are and where you are from. Not many people are losers. They are just in different situations in life with different thoughts and experiences. If you are a male, alive, and treat people properly, then you are leagues above other men with money and power. Story 25. Being born into this world without a good, respectable father to show you the ropes of life, and not having a culture to carry on, can cause you to lose hope and fall into nihilism. Story 26. Winning an election, complaining about winning the election, losing another election, leading an insurrection, spending multiple years losing court battles, pretending he was shot, winning another legitimate election, still whining about winning the election, and forcing his Department of Justice to conduct a minimal investigation of a pedophile's suicide. Story 27. Joining groups that promote toxic masculinity and misleading ideologies is the easiest way to become a loser and a poor quality person immediately. Story 28. A track record of poor behavior. Non-committal, dishonest, unfaithful, unable to maintain employment, poor hygiene, lacking social skills. Story 29. Not trying hard enough on things that the person cares about anyway. I do not mean over-trying. I mean not trying at all, giving up before trying. Story 30. A loser is someone who humiliates themselves in an objective way. It has nothing to do with morality or status. Anyone who says otherwise just wants to feel better about what those people did to them. Story 31. Being so insecure that they manipulate themselves into believing they are better than everyone around them. They put others down to justify their weak mindset and feel better about themselves. Story 32. Being someone's dependent for an extended period while making no meaningful contribution to the household. Story 33. Not keeping your word is a big issue. If you do not have your word, you have nothing. Along those lines, you should always pay your debts. Being a thief is about as low as it gets. Story 34. Unwillingness to learn and inability to take any form of responsibility. Believes Andrew Tate represents the ideal of masculinity. Has ever seriously thought Barney from How I Met Your Mother was a role model. Cannot be social without sex or drugs. Story 35. Mindset. You can literally overcome homelessness, and as long as you believe in yourself, people will follow. Story 36. Lack of ambition. I don't mean that you want to make lots of money or climb the career ladder, but have pride in yourself and want to do a good job whether at work or at home. Story 37. Speeding and loud engines. Would not be the first girlfriend to end up pate on a sidewalk, and no one cares about your fart noisemaker. Story 38. Depends. For some, it is not having a job. For others, it is being a virgin. Even not owning a house can cause someone to be labeled as a loser. If you ask me, I would say it is being afraid of admitting your mistakes, which means a lack of accountability. In my native language, voy a beasain. Desde que se inventaron las excusas se acabaron los pendejos. Meaning, it is a popular expression used to indicate that people have found ways to justify their mistakes or lack of action. It does not refer to a literal invention, but to the human tendency to avoid responsibility. Story 39. When he is hanging out of the side of his best friend's car trying to talk to girls. I cannot stand that. Story 40. A man is a loser when he blames others, disrespects people, and refuses to grow or take responsibility for his life. Story 41. Being completely financially irresponsible while expecting everyone else to bail him out. My ex spent his rent money on video games, then called his mother crying. Story 42. They think they are rebels because they litter and drive recklessly in their lifted trucks like the next three guys, rather than fighting for important causes such as defeating huge corporations destroying the planet. If you did not get the memo of my rant, all you need to know is that I hate nothing more than the fake rebel type who breaks meaningless rules for no reason. Story 43. Worshipping deceptive swindlers while pretending to be a lone wolf who goes his own way. In other words, bullies. Story 44. Insecurities that make individuals feel threatened by others having opportunities, specifically minorities and women. Story 45. Where are his pants halfway down his waist? Unemployed. Speaks like a jailhouse thug, has zero prospects, believes he deserves all the respect in the world, and steals from his mother. He is already approaching 30 years old. Yes, this was personal. Story 46. Blaming his father for not making enough money during his prime. He is suffering because his father is not wealthy. Story 47. This message is from a man, and I believe it applies to both sides, not just men. Being egoistic, gaslighting people, putting others down to feel better, and not being happy for others' success just because your own life is difficult. And the reason is usually you in 99.9% of cases, getting angry over small things, for example, if you are a vegan and someone is not, or if someone is Christian and you are not. These are just some examples, and with the last point, I thought about all religions. People have the right to their beliefs, and being angry at someone's religion is simply irrational. Focus on your own life because I am 99% sure that those who get angry over this have many other problems to solve. Also, being addicted and trying to justify it, even when you see how the addiction is ruining you, your family, and your friends. In short, these are some major things I cannot stand, and I often think that people who act this way are not serious. However, I believe everyone can change, but until then, these behaviors make you a loser. I did not create this rule. Every single person I know thinks the same. Story 48. Lack of attention. Avoidant of his responsibilities to his family, friends, and the welfare of all humanity. A self-absorbed parasite. Story 49. Being a kind person. Having children but not caring for them. Being unemployed without reason. Story 50. If you do not fulfill all of the following criteria, then you are a loser. You have six-pack abs and a model beach body. You are in perfect good health. You are a self-made billionaire. Your passive income earns you money every minute, even when you are sleeping. You have a lot of money and plenty of free time to do whatever you want. Your name is revered on the official Wikipedia, portrayed in a good light. You have a supermodel wife who is gorgeous and stunning. You are her only lover in her entire life. You married her when she was a virgin. She truly loves you and is very loyal. You have your own children. Your genes are good. Your testicles are capable of producing your own healthy, good-looking male heir. Your reproductive ability is superior to men who cannot produce male offspring. Therefore, before you judge anyone else as a loser, look yourself in the mirror. You are likely a loser too. Story 51. No money, unattractive, no power. You just need one of these three in life to be successful in reality. How you obtain them is irrelevant in the big picture. If you have none of these three and all three strikes against you, you will end up a loser. Story 52. Being lonely. Talking to artificial intelligence chatbots called girlfriend applications. Living alone. Gaming as a hobby. Learned all this on Reddit, by the way. Story 53. My brother-in-law lives in squalor, calls everything gay, is intelligent but is a degenerate and thinks because he was born into money he is superior. He becomes physical when confronted about his bad attitude and wrongdoings. Peak loser. Story 54. Cheating on the mother of your child and failing to have the emotional intelligence to see how this type of abuse toward her also abuses your child. Your own childhood trauma and neglect, combined with your avoidance of dealing with the issue, perpetuates the same cycle onto the next generation. Story 55. No effort. Not giving his best. That is all. Outcomes do not make men losers. Not trying makes men losers. Story 56. If you do not have accountability, overall respect, self-awareness, integrity, and honor to your own code, as well as the ability to adapt to the world around you, you will struggle. It is important to manage your emotions in a healthy and controlled way. Motivation matters whether it is for what you wanted or not. No person wants to carry the weight of another grown individual. Pick yourself up and keep moving forward, whether you want to or not, and make sure respect is mutual. Story 57. Going through life for years and having nothing to show for it or be proud of. I am 28 and have felt bad about my place in life. But sometimes I have to realize that in that time, I had 2 children and bought 2 homes. My ex-wife was the one who told me, even though you are in a hard spot, give yourself some grace. I have felt like a loser many times, but I did more than most men my age. Story 58. Someone who pulls people down with them. I have had many female friends whose boyfriends would cheat on them, financially abuse them, and fill their heads with lies, only to then ask for money for drugs or OnlyFans subscriptions or other things. This has happened with multiple people over the years. Story 59. Following other drivers closely because they have a larger or more expensive vehicle is unsafe and rude. Tailgating puts everyone at risk and is inconsiderate behavior. Story 60. This thread is targeting 1 or 2 specific archetypes of losers. However, there are more types besides the bully type. I am sorry if this is not nice, such as social, drug-addicted, criminal, and others. Story 61. Women are who I would ask, and the answer is money, but only because humans are dishonest, and you just have to hope capitalism is effective enough to provide you with the best information about somebody. Story 62. Needing a woman to let you be a man and having the nerve to complain that women do not let men be men is misguided. A tree does not need anyone's permission to be a tree. A true man does not need a woman's permission or allowance to be a man. Sometimes, when you are stronger, letting your partner lead is how you use your strength. Story 63. I am reading the comments and trying to imagine them being applied to women. I realized the expectations between a man and a woman are vastly different, for better or for worse. Story 64. Bullying, littering, abusing animals, witnessing poor behavior and not speaking up, especially among men, objectifying women, cheating, being a misogynist, looking at women's bodies, hunting, burping, and using offensive language. Story 65. When he is so focused on my queen and rooks, he does not notice when my little horse knight puts him in checkmate. Story 66. Feeling entitled professionally based on which college someone graduated from, especially when it has been at least a decade since graduation, is inappropriate. Middle-aged men joking about Harvard, Yale, Oxford, Cambridge, Berkeley, or Stanford just to name-drop their school is very cringeworthy. Story 67. Not taking care of your children or not trying to provide for your partner, if you have one. If you are single, as long as you are not taking advantage of or hurting anyone, you can basically do whatever you want and not be a loser. Story 68. Dropped out of high school, did nothing but use drugs and smoke marijuana throughout adulthood, relied heavily on his parents, and ended up 30 years old working as a line cook in a restaurant making minimum wage, flirting with servers 10 years younger, and blaming everyone else for his situation. Story 69. It is mostly sunglasses and their position when not used, on the back of the neck, tucked into the back of the collar, and similar places. All losers. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.